Welcome back to part 2 of this video on how to set up a broadcast.radio website. In the previous video we saw how to add pages and edit pages, and in this section we're going to concentrate on some of the other features available such as news, shows, presenters, schedule, etc. So let's just get straight in with some news. Now that we know the basics of editing pages, we can apply the same thing for almost all other content in the system, so we can make quite rapid progress on adding the rest of our website. The next thing to look at is probably news, so let's take a look at the news site. So first of all, let's have a look at what we have on the template website. So we have a couple of pieces of news here, a manually added story and an automated news. If I click on one of those, it takes you to the actual story itself, which can consist of title, picture and other content. But as we've just seen in the previous section for editing pages, you can add any of the elements you want to in here, so these stories can become as complicated as you wish. If we click on the news page itself, we can also see that here we have the same thing. We've just got the same two stories. But if we were to go to a website that is having automatic news, so let's go to demo.broadcast.radio. Here we can see on this website we're having automatic news fed in from Radio News Hub, and if I click on the news page here, we can see that we've got two different types of news. Actually, we've got our automatic news being provided by Radio News Hub, and then we've also got some local stories which are manually being added. So let's have a look at how we'd set up both of those things on our Humber Radio website. So go back to the edit page, and we can go to contents and choose pages, or we can go the same. We can get to the same way we're going by settings and site layout and enable pages. Both of them give us different ways of getting to the same page. But the thing we want to do is edit the news page. So here we can see the default news page. This is what will be in your template website when you first get it. You can see it consists of a title, a slug of text, and a post grid that has been set to be posts, but of the category news. So what this means is any of the latest posts that have been added to the system that are in the category news will be automatically included in this grid, and it will show 20 of them. And that's all you need for the here. You can you can add in other content in here if you want to. Now you might remember when we saw the demo page, it actually had a local news section. So the way we did that was we added in a second post. So I'm going to add in a second advanced grid post, and this time I'm going to call it local news. And it's going to be posts, but this time in the category we would create a new category of local news, which we've already done on this site here, and that would go in there. So any posts that we add to the system now that we put in category local news will actually be displayed on this grid, not this grid. Okay, so let's come back to the local stories in a second. Let's first of all think about this post grid here. So here we can see we've got it set to do news, but we also need to know how to actually get that news. Now, if we were to manually add a post to the system and set it to the news category, that would be added into this grid. So you can add national news to this grid manually, but you may also wish to subscribe to a news service and have automatic national news being posted. To do that, on this news page, you can see at the top here we've got automatic news gathering. If you click on the add button here, you can see the different types of news that we can add in. Now, in general, the most common one is going to be Radio News Hub. So if you subscribe to Radio News Hub, click on that, they will provide you with an API key which you paste into here, and then when you hit OK, the system will then will actually generate that news. if you don't have a subscription with Radio News Hub, you can also add in RSS-based feeds. For example, the BBC will provide or can provide national news as an RSS feed, but just as a warning, whilst the BBC on their website say that it is okay to include the RSS feed on your website, they do not necessarily own the rights for the images on there. So it is, if you want to use the BBC's RSS feed, you can certainly get the details off the BBC website, add in the RSS feed details here, but we would recommend do not copy images and do not display the images on the grid. As you can see on the actual grids themselves, there's actually a tick box for do not display any images, as the last thing we would want is for any station to be hit with a bill from the BBC for using content that they shouldn't. Okay, now we know how to add in automated news capture. Let's see how we would add a manual story. So let's add a manual news story. To do that, go to the dashboard and we want to click on a new post, and you can choose a category to create. Sometimes if this doesn't come up, you can also click on the create button here. Now we want to create a new news article, so we're going to click on the news article option. So here we can see a blank page. Now we're in familiar territory now, so we can give it a title. And we can give it some text. We can add in any other elements we wish to. We can also add a image which will be displayed in the grid. So this is like the headline image. So if we wanted to choose a different picture for that, we absolutely could do that. And we can also add a little bit of text in here which will be displayed underneath the story in the grid as well. So we should type a kind of one-line explanation of the story. Okay, now we're happy with our story. We just want to check the category. Because we created this in the news category, this will automatically be included in the news grid. If we wanted this to be in our local news story, we absolutely could have changed it to be local news instead. In that case, the system would post it in the local news grid instead of the main news grid. Now, this is a local story, so let's put it into our local news grid. And we'll remove it from the news category as well, because otherwise it would appear in both grids. When we're happy with the story, click on Publish. That story's now been added. If we go back to our content and we have a look at our posts, we can see here are the posts that we've added in. So it includes the blog posts, the news posts, any other posts that we've actually added. And from here, of course, we can go in and re-edit them or do anything we want to. But let's have a look at how this works on our website. Here we have our website here. I'm just going to refresh the page. And here you can see our local news. Because we've added our first piece of local news, that grid is now displayed. And we can see there's a picture of Ginger and a link to the story. And if we click on the story, there we can see is our post. However, as you can see, there's two images of the cat there, and that's because there's a setting on the page which will automatically display the cover image at the front. So if I close this and we go back to our all posts and go into Man Saves Cat from Tree, if I go on to the advanced, we can see here this one, show main image below the title. So I'm going to turn that one off, hit publish again. Go back to the dashboard, visit our website once more. This time when I click on the news, you can see that the story is loaded correctly this time. And that's all there is to adding manual news and automated news. Let's move on to something else now. In this section of the video, we'll look at how to add presenters, shows, and then assign those shows to the schedule in Broadcast Radio Web. This schedule can then be displayed in your website, but also on any embedded players. And the same schedule is also used for mobile apps if you have the mobile app option on your system. So let's get started and take a look at presenters, shows, and schedule. So essentially, inside broadcast radio websites, you can have individual presenters and they can have their own page, which you can add any content to using the page builder tools that we've already looked at earlier in the video. Then you have shows, which again, you can have show profile pages, and again, you can use all the tools to build out that page however you want to, and you can assign presenters to those shows. And then finally, we have a schedule where you can actually assign the shows to, so that people can see which shows will be on any point in the day. And when it comes to the schedule, you can have what we call an assignment, which is where you have that would be the default assignment, which is what shows will be used on a normal average weekly basis. So you only have to set that up once, and it's applied on a rolling weekly basis. But you can also then override that default assignment with individual assignments on any given date. So if you have a specialist show that you want to have in your schedule for next Thursday, you can change the show assignment just for next Thursday, or indeed any date in the calendar that you wish to. If you wanted to make that new show a recurring feature, then of course you would change it in the default assignment, not on the calendar. So this all sounds a bit complicated, but once we get started looking at it, it's probably going to be a lot simpler to understand to actually see it. So here we can see we're starting on our dashboard page. I'm going to actually go to contents, and I'm going to look at, first of all, presenters. So click on presenters, and we can see the template will have a couple of presenters. So let's have a look at a presenter. And you can see a presenter consists of the presenter's name, some script or some text information, and also over here we've got an image for the presenter. We can actually add some categories as well. You can go to in the content section under categories, manage categories. You can create new categories if you wish to, so you can create some categories for these presenters, but we really don't need to in this particular instance. So go back to this presenter here. As you can see, you can add in more element blocks here, so you can actually build out your page however you wish to for this presenter. This image here is the one that will be displayed on any of the presenter assignment grids or the on-air grids. So, and you can also put a slug of text in here, which is also what will be presented or shown on those grids. So if we have a look at our homepage here, if I go to open up the homepage, the presenter grid here, you can see here's the presenter name, and here's the little slug of text and the image, and if we click on it, it will take us to that presenter's profile page. So let's see how we create a new presenter. Very easy. I mean, you can actually do it from the dashboard. You can click on new presenter here, or you can go into content and go into presenters and then do create up here. So let's create a new one. Let's create a new presenter called Bob. Put some text in. And we want to put a featured image in for Bob. Maybe we've got let's use Ginger the cat for this. And let's put in Bob likes catnip. And then we click on publish, and that's all we have to do to create a new presenter called Bob. So obviously you can create pages for as many of the presenters that you wish on your station. So the next thing we need to do is look at shows. So shows are very similar to presenters, and in fact, actually, the process and the content is exactly the same. It's just this is a show rather than an individual presenter. So again, if I go to content and shows, here we can see the two shows that are included in the template. So let's have a look at the default show. And again, what we've got here is a title, our standard page, which you can build out using the standard tools, the image, and the brief text, which will just be displayed on the grids. The other thing you'll see is the assign presenter section, which allows you to assign the presenter for the show. So let's say we wanted to change the presenter. We could remove a presenter and then choose a different presenter to go in here. So let's say that Bob is now the presenter for this show. One little tip for you: sometimes it doesn't pick up the publish here. We hopefully we'll get most of these, but if at any point it doesn't pick up a publish on a rule change or a settings change, if you just put a space into the text and delete it, it will trigger the publish button. Hopefully we'll catch more and more of those as people report them, so you shouldn't have to do that moving forward. Now let's try adding a new show, which we can then assign to the schedule in a few moments. So here you can see we're back on the dashboard, and you can either add a new show by clicking on the shows and programmings button, or you can go into the content and go to shows and add one that way as well. We didn't do that last time, so let's use the dashboard this time. So you can see that just takes you directly to the same place, i.e. the show section inside the content, and we want to create a new one, so we click on create, and we call this one Bob's Great Show. Add in some information in here. Let's put in a gallery as well, just for a laugh. So let's go in here and let's just add in a few pictures of cats for some reason. Okay, that one will do. Okay, and I'm going to add a second one. It's a nice one. So the delay here is it's downloading the images. I double clicked, so that was something I shouldn't have done. So let's just get rid of that. As you can see on this image gallery, you can actually add captions, and the system works out how to display them, which is pretty cool. So let's just go back in here and go meet Bob's friends. Okay, now we just need to assign a presenter. Choose a feature image. So let's use a picture of Bob again and give it a little description. And when you're happy, you just click on publish. Okay, so now we've created both a presenter and a show, but unless we actually assign this to the schedule, then we won't actually see this in the on-air grids or the schedule or anything. So let's take a look at the schedule next. Click on content, and under the calendar section, there are two things here. So we mentioned this earlier, that there are assignments and there are calendars. So first, let's look at the calendar. So the calendar is an actual depiction of what is scheduled on each date. So you can see you can actually scroll forward here, or you can even jump to a specific date. So if we wanted to see what is currently scheduled to play on Christmas Day, we absolutely can do that. So let's have a look at what's going to play on Christmas Day. So you can see there on December 25th, we've got it's basically the same as all the others, because this is using the default assignment grid at this moment in time. So let's assume that actually on Christmas Day we wanted to do something different. So instead of just running the default show and then default nights, what I could do is say, okay, from 8 o'clock in the morning on Christmas Day, I'm going to drag down to early afternoon, and it asks me, do I want to change this as a one-off or edit the template? Now, if I edited the template, it would actually edit the default template so that this would be a permanent change. And the reason it would be the default template is you can see up here, the template being used is default. Now, in a minute, we'll look at assignments, and it doesn't have to use the default template. It could be overridden by an assignment that is set to run specific dates. But this time I want to just do a one-off change. Okay, so then you can see here now I can choose which show to put in there. So we just created Bob's Great Show, so let's put that in there, and we can see we've got the date and time there as well. So I'm going to hit save, and you can see now we have this thing here saying the day has been overridden, so it gives us a very clear indication that we have changed the schedule for this day. But we can now see we've got the default show, Bob's Great Show, and then we're back to the default show and the default nights. So you can see that we can do a one-off change to the schedule very easily just by going to calendar, choosing the date, and then adding in the bits that we want to do. Okay, let's have a look at assignments next. Okay, so in assignments, basically think of these, if you've used Myriad, then this is like the clock assignment grid in Myriad Schedule or in AutoTrack Pro. But essentially what we're doing here is building a default weekly schedule for your station. So here we can see I've got one in here which is in a template called default, and if I drop that down I can edit or I can delete it. So let's edit it and take a look at here. It's very similar to the grid we were just looking at there. So we can see we've got Monday through till Sunday. Obviously, because assignments are designed to run for a week at a time or a rolling week, then you only have Monday through to Sunday. You can see we've got each hours. And you can see we've got the default show followed by nights. But let's say we wanted to add in that Bob show we just did as a 4 till 6 show every day of the week. Easiest way to do that is to go in here. Now what we would want to do is probably currently when you click on it, it goes to the default show which is going through there. So what I'm going to do instead is change that so it goes from midnight through to 15:59. Okay, hit save. Okay, and then what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to put in what we do actually is we'll just do 4 till 6 like we said. So 4 till 6, and we're going to use Bob's Great Show. But I'm also here, I'm going to say I also want to use it on other days as well. Unfortunately, I can't do that right at this moment in time because you can see we've already got this assigned here. But if this was blank, we'd be able to actually say and Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday and Friday. So when you're building a blank one or a new one, it's very easy to stripe shows across the week. Unfortunately, what I'll have to do is do them manually here because they've already been assigned, and we have to unassign the shows before we can assign new ones. Okay, so I'm going to hit save, and you can see now Bob's Great Show, and I then want to change this section here back to be the default show. So hit save there. So you can now see on a Monday we've got that there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to repeat that on these other days of the week, and I'm going to actually show you this in a bit more detail, doing striping as well. So so let's change this to be 15:59. Save. Same on this one. And okay, so now from Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we have nothing assigned to the schedule between 4 o'clock in the afternoon and 10 o'clock at night. So what I'm going to do is first of all create Bob Show here, and I'm going to do Bob Show. And now, because those are blank, I can actually assign them Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Hit save, and I'm going to do the same thing on here for the default show to put this one back to default, and just stripe that across there. You can see I misselected there, so I'm just going to change that to be 21:59. There we go. Hit save. So now our schedule has been updated, and this is our default assignment. So this one is, if I click on it, you can see it is actually set to be the, this is the default assignment grid. So this one is the one that will be used when no other assignment grid is overriding. So everything's good on that. We can, we're happy with that. So that's now done. Now, with assignment grids, they are applied in real time, so you don't have to then save this as you're going along. It's saved in real time. So let's say we now want to create an assignment grid for next week, which is running totally different. Let's say we were dedicating the entire output of our station to Bob for the entire week. So what I can do is go back to assignments, and I want to add a new one, and I want this one to run from the 19th of September through to the 25th of September, and I want that to be so that's now going to run from the 19th to the 25th, and I'm going to call this one Bob's Week. Okay, so we got Bob's Week there. Obviously, we want to edit it now because there's nothing in there at the moment. And what I'm going to do is just very simply get the entire day, say this is Bob's Great Show, and put it across for the entire week. Hit save, and you can see we've got that there. So now if we go to the calendar, this week you can see we've got our new exciting lineup with Bob's show. But if I scroll across to next week, we can see for the entire week we've got Bob's Great Show, and then when we go to the following week, we're back to our default assignment grid. So that's how you would assign shows to the grids, or assign shows to the assignments, and then those assignments are applied to the calendar in basically in real time. So if I jump on to the actual website, I'll have to hit refresh here, and you can see that the current on-air show hasn't changed because of the time we are at the moment. It is the same. But if I was to now go to the schedule page, we can see now we've got the different shows in here, and if I was to scoot across into next week, we can see the only thing we've got on all day is Bob's show. Saturday and Sunday is different, so you can see that the schedule is being applied in real time. And if you have that set up on your player as well, you can see that it's also displayed in the player. Another element that is included with the default template website is the contact page. So let's take a look at that. On the contact page, we've very simply got a contact form, and also we've got our station name and address and other contact details should we wish to. So let's see how we would go about editing that. Click on the on your portal. You want to go to contents, pages, and you'll see a contact page there. And then this page is just a standard page, so you just use the same editing tools that we have looked at in part 1 of the video for editing out the page here. So you can see by default we have some script information and the built-in contact form, which allows you to type in a name and a message for visitors to your site to do that, and then you just add in the email address that you want the contact form to be sent to in here. And then on the template website, we also have a section for filling in your station name, address, city, postcode, etc. And of course, because this is just a standard page, you can just add more elements. So if we wanted to add in a phone number, let's add in something cool like a cover image, and we're going to go to the media library and we'll do a search for phone and search online for phone, and we'll take a picture of a phone. So let's go with this one here, and we're just going to put call us now on 01482 350 700, which is the broadcast radio phone number. Cover images, if we did cover these in a previous video, I think, but if you remember, these are an image that goes full width and have a overlay, and I'm going to just darken down that overlay as well to make it look a bit better. So if we were happy with that, we can click on publish, and if I go back to my my example site here, refresh that page, we can see now we've got our call us now. However, you can also see we've got a bit of it doesn't really display very nicely. So let's go back and add in a spacer. So let's just add in this go spacer, pop it in, 100 pixels is fine, but it's in the wrong place obviously. So all I need to do is just move that up one row, hit publish, and now we can see there is some spacing between the one to send us section and the cover image. In the previous time we looked at this page as well, the cover image wasn't actually being displayed full width. That's because we had the setting on the cover image not quite correct. So there's a setting here for whether or not to display full width or not, and I didn't have that set previously, and I just set that when I wasn't recording, so that's why that's changed. So that's it for the contact page. If you're happy, you can press publish. Now, one final thing I would mention is if you want a more complex contact form, you can also use the HTML element. So you can choose the custom HTML element. This allows you to type or paste in HTML code directly into here, which will be executed when the page loads. And there are several third-party contact form services and websites on the web that you can go to, design a contact form, and then copy the HTML code it generates and paste it in here. So if you need a more complex form than the one provided natively in broadcast.radio websites, then you absolutely can do that by embedding some third-party HTML. Okay, let's move on to the next thing. On the template website, there's also a playlist page which is used for displaying information about songs that you want to highlight in the system. And there are two types of playlists that you can actually have on the website. You can have manually created ones, which is where you just create the song and artist yourselves, and so you can create your own collections or your own playlists. And then there's also it is also possible, if you have Myriad Playout 5 and Myriad Anywhere Pro, then it is possible to have certain categories automatically displayed as playlists on the Broadcast Radio website. You can even have just featured artists that are extracted from those categories as well. However, we won't be covering the automatic upload of playlist categories as playlists in this video, as it's a bit outside of the scope of this setup video, but there will be a separate article on the help desk on how to do that. But for now, we're going to just manually create a playlist and then display it on the playlist page. The default page included in the template website for playlist, if we click on it, you can see that it actually doesn't have anything in it. So the idea behind this is you can then create your own playlist. So let's go ahead and do that. Go to our control portal, and what we want to do is we need to actually create a playlist itself. Now that is done using a feature of the system called lists. So let's have a look at the lists that we have here by going to content, and then lists. And there are a few lists that are automatically generated by the system. You will see playlists in here, but also if you've enabled the banner ads, there will be as a list. So let me have a look at the playlist one there. So this is the default list that we have in here. And you can see that we have a playlist here, and it currently doesn't have anything in it. Now, actually what happens as you are using the system is it will actually populate as you're playing stuff from Myriad. If assuming you're using the system with Myriad and got the now playing information coming in, the system will actually build up a list of songs as well. So you'll be able to search through those songs. But obviously there's a new website here. We haven't got in that. So let's manually create a couple of playlist items. So we're going to click on the plus, and we're going to say, okay, first of all, we're going to do a title. So we're going to do spinning around. And artist is Kylie Minogue. Okay. And you can also do a page. You can do a page to open when you click on this. So if you wanted to, you could have that linking to a click to buy or a featured artist page. You can also get the system to look up the artwork for you. So you can see there by clicking on that button there, it's gone and found the album art for Spinning Around by Kylie Minogue. I hit save, and now that is now added to my playlist. So let's add a couple more songs. Okay, I've gone ahead and added in a few more tracks into this playlist. As you can see, we've got 6 tracks in our playlist now. So if we hit publish, that will save that playlist. Just have a look at a couple of the other options once this is saved. Okay, we can. The order is important in here because this is the order they will be displayed in. We can reverse the order, but we can also put them in via. We can also sort them by when they're added, or we can have them displayed randomly. So it depends which way around we want to do. So if this was an A list, you may want to have the newest stuff at the beginning. You may want to have it random each time. Now this is the playlist list, i.e. the one that's pre-created. So we click on publish here. Let's say we also then wanted to add a secondary one, which is going to be a new list, which is going to be our featured our featured songs for this week. So we could create another list. So we go to manage lists, then we click on add, and we want to add another playlist, and we're going to call this one Song of Week. Okay. So here we have our new Song of Week, and I'm going to click on here, and I'm just going to edit this one, and I'm only going to add one thing into my Song of the Week. So we're getting an Umbrella by Rihanna. Spell umbrella wrong. There we go. Hit save, and this is our song for the week. So I'm just going to publish on that. So that is now, we now have 2 playlists that we have here. We've got our example playlist, which was pre-created, and we created a new Song of the Week playlist. But on our playlist page on our actual website, we don't actually have those displayed at the moment. So let's have a look at how we're going to take these lists and display them as grids on our playlist page. Go back to your editing portal, go to content, and then we want pages, because we want to edit the playlist page. So here we have the playlist page, and you can see that we currently, the default template does actually have a playlist grid on it. It's called Hot Songs. You can edit the title. So I'm going to call this one our A-list. And then you have to choose which list to display. So I'm going to choose playlist. But then I want to add another grid, which is going to be my Song of the Week. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a couple more elements here. First thing I'm going to do is put a spacer in. So I put a spacer in, and then I'm going to add in another playlist block. So let's call this one just select playlist from the element list. Give it a title of Song of the Week. And then this time I'm going to choose from my list, my drop-down list, I'm going to just choose this Song of the Week one. Also spell playlist right up here. So now we have on our page, we'll have we can get rid of that block there. We don't really need it, so let's get rid of that altogether. But I probably would put another spacer in just below this one, just to make it look a bit nicer. There we go. So that's in there now. So now we have the first block is going to show our original list we created, and the second block is going to be just the Song of the Week. So let's click on Publish and take a look at what that looks like on the website. Go back to our website, just reload the page. So you can see we have the A-list, our A-list, which is displayed there, and we have our Song of the Week in here. And the good thing about this is that next week, when we want to change our Song of the Week, we simply go to content, and you just go into your lists, and if you do manage lists, or you can see we've got Song of the Week is here straight away. So we could just go in and change whatever's in here for next week's Song of the Week. And that's nice and simple. As we mentioned at the beginning of this section, there is also a way of synchronizing categories inside Myriad 5 Playout with playlists in broadcast radio websites. You have to have both Myriad 5 Playout and Myriad Anywhere Pro, as it is actually Myriad Anywhere Pro and broadcast radio website working together to get that information from your playout system. Unfortunately, that doing so won't be covered in this video because it's quite a complex process to set up. But once it's set up, it means that your playlists on your website are automatically being updated from Myriad Playout, which means you only have to change categories for live things like A-list and B-list in Myriad in order for it to be automatically updated on your website, which is pretty cool. Anyway, we're going to move on to the next thing on the template, so let's take a look. The final content page included in a template website is the About page, which you can use for adding content about your station and telling your visitors to your site any information that you want them to know about you. To do that is very simple. On your portal, go to your content section and go to your pages, and you'll see About is listed there. And when we open that, we can see that this is just a bog standard content page, so you can add any elements that you wish to into here. So just like when we built the competition page earlier, or any of the other page editing we've done, you can use this to add in all sorts of content that you want to, not just text and images, but you can also add in content grids. So for example, one thing you could do is create a new presenter category of management, and have all of the management for your station in there as well if you wanted to. So you can do anything you want to with the About section, and it's pretty straightforward. By this stage of the video, hopefully you've seen editing on the pages often enough to know how to go about creating your About page. Okay, so now that we've done most of the content side of things, we actually need to do a bit of back-end work to make your streams work with your player, to integrate Myriad Playout 5 or Myriad Playout 4 for that matter with your website, and also to edit the details of the pop-up player that you will have on the Listen button, which is also included in the template. So let's take a look at some of those processes to finish off our website. In order for the various players on your website to be able to actually play your stream to the visitors to your website, the website needs to know where the stream is coming from. Now, for a lot of customers, broadcast radio website customers, they may well be having their streaming also with broadcast radio, in which case, in most cases, this will be pre-configured on your website. If not, however, you can very easily configure it. All you need to know is the location that any listener would type into a web browser in order to listen to your stream. So I've got an example one here. You can see the URL is streaming.broadcastradio.com. Then there's a unique port number and what's called a mount point. And all of this information is required in order for broadcast radio websites to be able to listen to your stream. You don't, however, need to have the source information like the login details or anything like that, because we aren't trying to edit or send to the stream. We're just trying to listen to it just like any other listener would do. So basically, if you're not using broadcast radio for your streaming provider will provide you with the information that you need in order to connect up to here. So it may be that the URL is different, it may be the port and the mount points are very different, but that's what you basically need. So if I was to click on play here, it would actually play in this web browser. So this is ideal. Also, just mention about HTTPS streaming, which is the secure version of streaming. Most modern browsers are requiring this now. Certainly Alexa skills, and probably in the very near future, if not already, the mobile apps require secure streams. Some providers don't provide secure streams, Broadcast radio websites will work with unsecure streams, but some devices that may be connecting to the website will not work. So we'd highly recommend using the secure version of the streams wherever possible. If you are a broadcast radio customer, you also you'd also get sent this information, and you can see on screen now the document that you would, or an example of the document you get from us, and we're highlighting here the section that you would actually need to make a note of or have to hand when you're setting this up. Okay, so let's see how we add that stream to the broadcast radio website. On your portal, go to the settings section, and then there's actually a top level menu option for streams here. And here you can see on a template website we haven't got any stream set up, but you can actually add more than one stream to your website as well. This enables you to have a primary and a secondary stream, which may be useful if you use more than one provider. Say you have lots of providers, but each one has a fairly low cap. You may have it so that the first 100 listeners would go to one provider, and then the next 100 would go to a different provider. All of our streaming packages have 1,000 or more connections, so it's probably unlikely you need to do that if you're streaming through us, but there may be reasons why you want to do that. So let's have a look how we'd add our stream. Click on the Add button, and you see the settings come in on the left-hand side here. And the first thing you have to do is do the stream type. So you can do an Icecast. Most common ones are Icecast or Shoutcast. If you're streaming with us, it will be Icecast. If you're streaming with some other providers, it may be Shoutcast. Then we type in the station name. So let's call this one Humber Radio. And finally, we have to put in the streaming URL in its complete form. You remember when we looked at this a second ago, it was server address : the port / mount point. And you can choose whether to do HTTPS or HTTP, but we're going to use HTTPS, which was the one we wanted to do. So the easiest way to do this is if I go back to my original thing here, and if I just highlight just the bit I need, so just the actual address, not the HTTPS : / bit. Copy that, and I'm just going to paste it into here. And you can see what the system does is it kind of separates out the mount point from the port as well. You click on Add, and there you can see is our first our first stream, and it's priority 1. Now, if I wanted to add a second one, I could click on Add and go through that process again, but I don't really want to do that because this is all I need. And that is honestly all there is to setting up the streams going into the broadcast radio website for use on your players. As I mentioned, if you're streaming with us, we will always try and fill this in for you. It is a manual process though, so if we haven't done it on your particular website, apologies for that. But you can follow this process, or if you get stuck, you can always ask us. Now that we have a fair amount of content on our website and also have the streaming set up, we can take a look at the web player now, which is the player that is used elsewhere other than on the homepage on your website, but also the player that you can embed on third-party websites as well. So we already talked at the beginning of the first part of this video about the launch box, which is on your home page, which is this section here, and all the various settings that you can do. But as you navigate around your page, if you click on the play button, it will open up your floating web player, which is this here. So this this bit here that we're looking at here is what we're talking about when we're talking about editing the features and look of our web player. So let's take a look. On your broadcast radio web portal, go to the settings section, and then under the station settings, you'll see there's a player section, and we want to click on that. This opens up the player window, which consists of a preview on the right hand side and various options for setting your player and getting the embed code on the left hand side. So let's work our way through them very quickly. First thing is you can choose a different logo. Now, if you don't set a logo here and there isn't one set on the template, then it will revert back to the logos that we set in the station section. But if you want to change the logo, you can do that. So that is the logo that is displayed here. You can also set a default background logo. Now, as the player plays stuff, if it gets album art, it does a blurred version of the album art behind. But if you want to, you can have something different. So you can see in this example here, the broadcast.radio web logo is here, and the background hasn't been set, so it's a blurred version of the same logo in the background. But if I wanted to change that to something else, let's change that to this image here, for example, then what would happen is you can see the background of the player is changed to be a very blurred version of that logo. The next bit we have is the style section, and this is probably the biggest change, or the biggest, most important thing to decide on for your player. So you have 4 different options here. You can have tabbed, which is the default one, and that way the options are displayed in a tab at the bottom of the player. You can also use full page. So in that case, instead of having tabs, all of the turned on functions inside the player are all within the same page. So you can see you can scroll down, and you've got recently played tracks and schedule are all displayed in there as part of the page. Now this is useful if you are actually if you're embedding this on a third-party website and you want it to be a page as such rather than a pop-out section. Next thing is player only, and in player only mode you just get the player. There's no links to schedule or recently played or any of the other stuff. It's just a simplified player, and that becomes quite useful because there's also a mini version of this which is really handy for putting on in menu bars or things like that. And finally, we have the expanding player. Now what this does is it starts off as a very small player like this, so it's easy to embed in your website. And when somebody clicks on it, it then goes to a full page player like this over the top, and then they can close it back down again if they want to. So the expanding player is very handy for having a small player on screen that, or on your embedded website, that expands to fill the whole screen. Now, when you're using your broadcast radio website, you're not embedding this natively in the website, it's best to stick with the tabbed one, really, because it will be actually, when they click on it, it will open up. So here we can see in this example, when we click on the button, it will actually open up the tabbed version of that player. Next up, we've got custom color schemes. By default, we'll pick up the schemes we set way back on at the beginning of the video, but we can override these. So if you turn on customs, you can choose for the player, you can choose the text, the background color, and the highlight color, which would be like the any links or the play button. And then on the menu, you could have something different. So let's say if you wanted your menu to be shocking pink instead, you could do that quite easily by going in there. There we go. So you can see now my menu is pink, but it might be a good idea for my background text to now be black. The next option allows you to toggle a different view for the player and now playing information within the player. By default, the now playing information and the play button are vertically stacked inside of the player. But if you turn on the use block design for player controls, you can see instead of doing that, the play up button and the now playing information is stacked horizontally along the bottom just above the tabbed bar. Most of the rest of these options simply toggle on or off features on the players. So starting with the show album art, this is the large piece of artwork that typically sits in the center of the player and is, when hooked up to a compatible player system, will show the album art wherever possible and the station logo when that isn't possible. Obviously, you can turn that off if you do not wish to have it on. You can also choose whether to show no playing information altogether. So if your player system isn't compatible with broadcast.radio websites, and then you can turn this off and still use the player. You can also change the color of the now playing background and text. That's this little tag here, which is displaying the now playing information. You You can choose whether or not the player should show you recently played songs. So if you click on the recently played tab here, once the system's up and running, you'd actually see a list of the last 5 songs in this case that have been played. If you don't wish to share that with the world, then you can turn that off, and you can see it gets removed from the tabs as well. If you've typed in a email address and contact details, then you can then enable the show contact button, and that becomes a small a little like a message icon in the top right hand corner to allow you to people who are listening to actually message you in the same way they can send you a message from the contacts page. Similarly, if you've put in the details for your Mixcloud account, you can include a Mixcloud tab on your player, and when listeners click on that, they'll see a list of the content that you've uploaded to Mixcloud. If they click on that content, it will take them to Mixcloud to allow them to listen to it. For the schedule information, you can choose whether to display now or next, a full day, or 7 days, or no schedule at all, depending on what you want to do. And the final option in this section is the enable autoplay. This will then attempt, whenever the player loads, once it's buffered, it will attempt to start playback automatically. Some websites now block this. It's one of those things that we don't have a lot of control over. So you can turn it on, and for most websites, or most browsers I should say, will automatically start playing. But some browsers and some devices won't allow the system to automatically play. You have to opt in. When you're happy with your player, click on Save. This will now become the default player that is used on your station. So if I go back to my station here, click on the play button here, you can see we've got our lovely pink buttons and our block, and autoplay obviously works on this video, so or on this platform. So here you can see the player in action with all the details that you want to do. So let's have a look how we would then embed this onto a third-party platform, because we don't have to do anything with it if you're running the website with us. However, if you also want to put this on a third-party website, then you need to use the embed code down here. So there are 2 or 3 different options for you here. You can have a portrait mode one, which is a player will open like this. You can have a large square where it's similar but just a slightly different layout. You can have the fluid one, which is where it will basically automatically work out based on the space available, and this is useful for anything that's going to be targeting any mobile platforms. And in a few of the different design options, like if I go to the player only, because the player only has a play button, we then enables the mini mode option, which allows you to put a very small player that can be embedded onto a website, or indeed used as a default player when people click on listen inside your own broadcast radio website. Whichever mode you choose, I'll just set this back up the way it was. Whichever mode you choose, you can then use the embed code here to actually place that on your website. So if you click in there, it automatically copies the information, the script into the paste buffer. So you can literally go to your third-party website now and paste that code into an HTML widget or an HTML element, anything like that on the platform to embed the player on there. Alternatively, instead of embedding the player, you may prefer to have a button that you can embed on your website that will launch the player as a pop-up, just like it does in the broadcast radio website. In that case, you can choose whether it's going to be a pop-up player, whether it's going to be a new tab, or if it's just a hyperlink. So in the pop-up, you can see there's a bit of script here, and when we click in there, again, it automatically copies it to the paste buffer. And what that will, if you paste this into an HTML element on a third-party website, what you'll see on screen is a button like this, and when you click on it, it will open up a pop-up browser with your player embedded. Finally, you can choose to use a hyperlink. The reason for using a hyperlink is this is a standard HTML hyperlink, and again you can choose whether it pops up or goes to a new tab. And basically what this does is it allows you can attach a hyperlink to any button element on a website. So instead of using the button that we provide, this button here, if you want to have it so that when you click on your logo on your web page, for example, it opens the player, then you would use a hyperlink one, because this the href element, not to get too technical about it, but the href HTML element is a hyperlink and can be attached to images, buttons, or anything else on a website. So you could use that for a more advanced way of embedding the website. Now, none of this is needed for on your own website. On the Broadcast Radio website, the only thing you need to do is design the player how you want it to be and click on the save button, and then it will automatically use that layout of player whenever anyone clicks on the play button on your actual website. Just as we're not going to dwell on this too much, but just to mention what this customizable Broadcast Radio player section is. Basically, we have exactly the same set of elements, but on the customizable Broadcast Radio player section. And the difference between these two is the primary Broadcast Radio player is the one that the website and even the microsite will use. So even if you don't have a full Broadcast Radio website, but you do have streaming with us, you do get a one-page microsite, and this is the player that one-page microsite will use. The customizable Broadcast Radio player, however, when we create the embed code for that, it actually creates all of the information about the setup for this player within the code itself, which means we can embed this one as it is right now on one website, and then we could change the design to be, say, a full page player, and that will change the code, and we could put this on a different website. So what this means is you can create an infinite number of different players and then link to them or embed them on other sites, or indeed within your own Broadcast Radio website if you had a good reason to do so. So the customizable player is the same options as the default player or the primary player. The difference is this is the one that will always be used on your Broadcast Radio website, whereas these ones, each time you create a new one, it's the settings are saved, but you can essentially this is like a one-shot creation that you can then embed on your website if you wish. And that's pretty much all there is to do with the web players. Remember to save once you've made some changes. You can also get your streams from this page as well, because obviously the player is not a lot of use without the streams. The final thing we really need to look at is how to link your playout system to Broadcast Radio websites so that the player will be populated with useful live information about what the system is playing at any time. So that's what we'll do next. One of the elements that really brings a broadcast.radio website to life is the playout integration that powers the launch box and the players. Here we can see a fully configured broadcast.radio website, and we can see that we've enabled the recently played information on the launch box. So here we can see straight away that Let Go for Tonight by Fox is playing, and Empty Space, Lovers and Losers, and Perfect Strangers have played recently. Same thing is true on the pop-up player. You can see the currently playing item. You have the album art and the title and artist, so you can see what's going on. And if we click on the recents, we'll get a similar list of things that have been played recently. Now, this is all powered by the playout system integration that's included in Broadcast.radio, and what that basically means is that the playout system at your station is sending information to the website about what it's currently playing and the title and the artist of the item it's playing. The system is then remembering these, which is in building its own list for the recently played. So the only thing the playout system tells it is what it's currently playing in terms of title and artist. Now, if you're using Myriad 4 or Myriad 5 specifically, then this type of player integration is very simple because we've built the two systems to work together. If you're using Myriad 3, then you can still do this, but you would need to have OCP Pro as well. So if you run Myriad 3 and you want a broadcast.radio website with now playing information, you can have that, but you would probably need to upgrade to OCP Pro if you haven't done so already. And if you have a third-party playout system, it's still possible to have this integration as long as your playout system can do an HTTP push, which is or an HTTP post, I should say, which contains the information about what is currently playing and what's next. And that will then power the system. There we can just see just now there was a change of song. So in as the song changed, Selena Gomez started. Foxes became the song was played 4 minutes ago, and the album art was downloaded for those particular items automatically. So let's take a look at how we set this up. On the Broadcast Radio portal, probably would start on the dashboard. You need to go to Settings, and then you need to go to Playout Integration. Now, if you're using OCP 5 or OCP 4, or if you don't use OCP but you do use the Broadcast Radio encoding software for web streams, then we have native integration between those two systems. So all you need to do is in the top section here, you have your broadcast.radio API key. You copy that and you go to OCP, whether that's 4 or 5, and you add in the broadcast.radio output. It will ask for the API key, which you can then paste in there. You hit OK, and that's the two systems talking to each other. Now that process is covered in far more detail on a help desk article on help.broadcast.radio. So if you do a search for broadcast.radio OCP or now playing information, you should be able to find the relevant article there, because there are a few steps you need to do in Myriad if, for example, OCP isn't currently hooked up to talk to Myriad in the first place. Similarly, if you're using the Broadcast Radio encoder or the BR encoder, there's a not OCP. There is a way that it can send you can put the same API key in. There's just a simple setting for send information to Broadcast.radio. You tick that and paste the API key in and you're done. Now, if you're using Myriad version 3, it's a little more complicated. You'll need OCP Pro, and if you drop this down here and choose the OCP Myriad OCP, you can see here are the HTTP get post settings that you need to send. Now, if you can see, you can click on here for a full guide, and I'd recommend you do that because this is a bit too complicated to explain inside of a video. But essentially, we need to send a string from Myriad to Broadcast.radio in the correct format in order to allow the information to pass on. And if you use a third-party system such as RCS or some other system, as long as it can output a URL string like this, then you could do it. So basically, any third-party system needs to be able to post this particular API string, so this URL, so that then add on to the end of it this information. So it needs to append this live information, so title equals, and then the name of the title and an artist, and then the start time and the type as well, although the type is optional. So as long as your system can output an HTTP string or send an HTTP string and you can format it in the way that's described here, then your system will be able to update Broadcast.radio in with now playing information. And that's about it for the player integration. Let's move on to the next item. As you're building your broadcast.radio website, you may want to enlist more than just yourself to do things. And certainly once your site is built, you may want to have other users contributing content. You can easily add users using the user management section inside the system. Let's take a look at how we would do that. Click on the settings section and then select users. This will give you a list of all the current users as well as their position. So let's add a new user to the system. You click on add, and in here you can add in your user's name. So let's say we've got a user called Joe, and his email address is joe@joe.com. And you can choose whether or not to let them set their own password by email or manually set one. We'd always recommend doing send a password by email because that's the most secure way of doing it. Then you can choose a role for them. You can see we've got 4 roles here. Guests can't do anything but log in. Contributors can create draft content but can't actually publish it. Authors can publish content and create drafts, and they can edit their own posts but not general pages. And then editors can both create new contents, publish and edit any content on your website. So let's create Joe as a contributor. And then finally, if you've got multiple websites with us, you can actually choose which websites this person is able to do. So you can choose additional websites that are children of your account or child websites of your account. So if you want them to do more than one. Anyway, click on Add User. You will need to type in your password you use to log into the system, because obviously otherwise anyone could just go ahead and do this. So let's just type in a password. And then you can see Joe has been added to our user list. You can also go into here and edit Joe, change their go in and change their role, and you can also reset their password and delete the user from in here. So let's delete Joe off this system. If you do delete someone, you do have to reassign their content to someone else because obviously they were responsible for some content. So I've just reassigned that content to me. And that's all you have to do with users. It's pretty straightforward. Let's move on. Having finished building your broadcast.radio website, one of the final things you probably want to do is actually assign a custom domain to your website. Now, every single broadcast.radio website comes by default with a broadcast.radio website address. So you can see here, Humber Radio is called the web address for our Humber Radio website we've been talking on is humber.broadcast.radio. So and you'll automatically have one of those assigned to you. So it'll be something like your station name.broadcast.radio. But you may well own a domain that you want to have assigned or have this website assigned to. So if you owned humberradio.com, for example, then you can actually have it so that your website that address would go to your website, and that's a two-stage process. First of all, you have to add the information into the broadcast.radio platform, which is a very simple process. The second stage is that whoever manages your domain registration, you'll need to be able to update the DNS records to point them at the broadcast.radio servers. So you will need to have access to whoever is hosting your domain. So whether that's like someone like GoDaddy or some other website registrar. That part is a little more complex because obviously everyone's system is different. So we can offer some general advice as to what to do with that, but you will need to probably consult the documentation for whoever is registering and holding your domain in order to do that side of things. But we can certainly go through what we need to do from the broadcast.radio side of things. So let's first of all go back to our portal, and we want to go into settings, and then we want to go into custom domains. As you can see, there's no domain assigned to this website at the moment, but if we click on the add button, we can we want to choose add-on domain, and we want to put in our domain. So let's assume we owned humberradio.com, and you can also add in a path if it's actually not a primary, but normally you'd leave the path blank. You click on add, and then we will assign or create a SSL, a secure certificate for that, and assign it to the backend database so that your website will be displayed as a secure site for any visitors to your your station or to your website. But that's only half of the story. As I said, you also have to look at actually updating the DNS records on whoever is registered that domain for you. To do that, you will need to be able to access that system. And we do have some general help on that inside of the Broadcast Radio help portal. So if you go to help.broadcastradio.com, and then easiest thing to do is type domain into the search window here, into the search, and you can see what comes up top is migrating your website to broadcast.radio web. So if you click on that, the first step is the thing we've just done, which is add in the appropriate domain. Step 2 is migrating your domain name. Now, the most common thing is you already have a DNS entry. So what you need to do is you would need to remove, log into your to the control panel for whoever is that's managing your domain, and then you need to remove the old records, and then this is the key thing here: you have to create new records using the information that's here on screen. So most systems, this should be reasonably simple to do or reasonably clear, because normally they just have a portal where you can type in this information, and that's all you need to do. Now, it is one of those things that is quite complex to do. Unfortunately, Broadcast Radio help or support will only be able to offer very limited help on this, because obviously every domain registrar's portal or systems are different, and we don't know the bulk of them. We've never even seen, so there's only limited help we can do on this. That said, if you're really stuck, then it's always worth dropping us an email to see if we can give you any direction or give you any assistance. There are a couple of other options on here, like if you're using a third-party DNS host as well. So it's worth checking out this documentation and reading it all the way through. Once that's done, it can take up to 12 hours to actually propagate across the internet. Usually it's pretty much instantaneous, but it's certainly not uncommon for it to take 10-15 minutes to do it, but it could take up to 12 hours. But once that's done, anyone who types in humberradio.com into their search browser or their web browser would go straight to your broadcast.radio website. You should now have all the information you need to start building your broadcast.radio website. If you need more help, go to help.broadcastradio.com and click on the broadcast.radio section. Thanks for watching.